Hey everybody, this is Brian here, and considering that I had a pretty bad seizure today, I wanted to make a video talking to you guys about some tips the day of, the day of an emergency major seizure like a grand mal or something, especially from like a standing drop attack or something. So here, let's get straight into it. Uh, I'm wearing my hat out of moral support for everybody. I love you guys all, and I hope that you feel better if you're dealing with anything that's similar to what I'm going through. Uh, Anyways, let's get to it. Number one on here is to track your emergency medications very closely when you have a major seizure. That way, you don't take too much of them. The reason I say this is because um, my medications often kind of leave me with short term memory loss or something, and so do the seizures and the brain fog. So I don't want to accidentally take too much of the same medication, especially emergency medications that are meant to be given to you during a seizure. So you don't want to obviously something severe like overdosing. So be careful and track your emergency medications, or have your caretaker if you're under one. Um, have your caretaker or yourself um, track your medications very closely because you don't want to take too much of them, frankly. That's the point of number one. Number two on here is that seizures can come in pairs within 12 to 24 hours. Beware of glass or things like breakable dishes because falls during a seizure can really, really hurt you and leave some scars. A couple of times I've bitten my tongue up like a used rag, and I've woken up with like blood coming out of my mouth. So frankly, you don't want to undergo those scars, or especially if you left a scratch mark on your head. Um, on this seizure I had today, I actually had a scratch mark under my nose and on my head. It's on the part that's above the helmet, so you can't really see it too much. But, anyways, nevertheless, just be careful of the environment that you're surrounded by. That way, you don't have things that are going to exacerbate your seizures, especially if your body is giving you a warning the day prior of unusually bad auras. Keep track of your auras too. Um, don't overexert yourself. This is number three. The day of, because you may tire yourself out and provoke a pair, like I had mentioned earlier. I had a pair a week ago, and it took me about 3 days to recover, and I still felt pretty crappy after that. So it was a relative recovery is a relative term after a pair of seizures in short proximity to each other. Number four is to eat soft foods. It can help, especially if you deal with tongue wounds, since a lot of seizures involve either being asleep or falling from a standing position. You can obviously bite your tongue quite a bit, especially on the sides or the tip, and sometimes those wounds don't heal. Another thing that can happen is shortness of breath. Um, so, speaking of which, be conscious of the auras that pop up in the 24 hours, because they're usually worse than normal. You may be looking at an oncoming pair if the auras uh, reflected by circumstance, if they're different than the ones that you normally face. Number five on here is one of the major symptoms of a grand mal seizure the day of is, since this is about the day of a major seizure, not just the day before, but I'm trying to help you if you obviously are on kind of on on the edge of the plank, so to speak, and you're about to face one. So get ready, but also here's what you do after you have one. Um, you're going to face a lot of brain fog. Get ready to be really, really out of it the day of, and try to relax. Don't overexert yourself. Don't set goals that are going to make you, face plant into another seizure just by exhaustion. Number six on my list, let me scroll down a little bit. Uh, Number six on my list is when you're relaxing, um, try to find easygoing movies like BBC Earth, or I watch some David Attenborough documentaries, and I listen to some classical music. You can also try to make yourself a sleep playlist either on YouTube or if you have like a CD that you can burn one onto. Anyways, try to listen to some relaxing music and watch some things that'll help you fall asleep, like nature documentaries and National Geographic. There's very many different things that, depending on your taste in movies and music, whether or not you even like nature programs, it is a subjective thing, you know. Um, anyways, this next one is not so much a matter of taste in film, but it's really just a matter of safety for anybody, frankly. Avoid climbing stairs and ramps on the day of, because pairs could arrive at any moment in the 24 hours following a grand mal seizure, and you don't want to be in the worst possible elevated place for one to happen. Obviously, that would involve you falling down the stairs, which is not what you want to happen, and I want you guys to be as safe as possible, so be careful, you know. That's one thing to do in the day following a seizure. When you've had one, you're going to be really tired. Often you won't remember what happened because you kind of black out during one. And then, frankly, you just got to be careful. A lot of times when I wake up from a seizure, because mine often happen when I'm asleep, I have to ask my mother, you know, like, did I have a seizure? What became of me? Did I have a really bad one? And those sort of things, um, you know, are filled in. But you want to be really careful not to place yourself in the type of situation that's going to, frankly, make it more dangerous and make it worse, you know? Things like, you know, elevated ramps or porches or near a window, you know, those are a lot of things. I think you know what I mean, you know. 9 is mostly for people who have you know, like they've chipped a tooth or they've bitten part of their tongue off and severed a nerve, kind of. These are things for people like me, kind of, a little bit. But to rinse your mouth out if you have severe tongue wounds like I do, and to brush your teeth next time, it wouldn't hurt. That, you know, like rinse your mouth out with like Listerine in the meantime. That way you don't accidentally use that abrasive back end of the toothbrush that they put to kind of scrape the sides of your mouth. That, frankly, I find that part of the toothbrush a little bit abrasive, so you don't want to accidentally like scrape off part of an open tongue wound and make it worse. So don't exacerbate the situation. And I'm not saying for lack of dental health, but you don't want to exacerbate any oral wounds, you know. Number 10 on here is that since seizures, like I said, are unconscious, after any major event, if you have check if you have broken bones or related sprains or injuries. One time I fell and I actually broke a finger and I wasn't aware for several days. I actually had to go to the hospital and get it put in a cast. And that took quite a while to heal, you know. But yours could be much more severe. So be careful and be conscious after the seizure. One of the things you can do the day of is to make sure that there's not some sort of injury that followed it or was caused by it. Like pretend you fell and you hit your head, especially on the corner of something. You really want to be conscious of what the seizure leaves you with, since, like I said, often we're unconscious during those seizures. It's almost like, I don't want to say dropping dead because that's really depressing, but you're left without awareness of what's going on until after the actual event, which can be pretty scary. And I empathize with anyone who's ever had to go through that. I'm just saying that after the grand mal or the major event is over with, you want to kind of check your body, either have someone else help you look over your wounds, or if you're having a repeated pain in one part of your body, like you may have a fracture, or you may have something broken, you may have even a concussion. You never know, especially since seizures can involve falling so much. Um, Now, these are some honorable mentions that I wanted to add to this video. Um, Always wear head protection the day following an unusual seizure aura. That way, you're not in the position of major injury or concussion by default. So, number two on here is to learn your own symptoms and auras and keep a notebook to write them down in. I keep a composition notebook and deal with shortness of breath and other symptoms like involuntary muscle movements. Sometimes this is what I'm about to do is purely demonstrative, but I sometimes have involuntary muscle movements like something called a myoclonic head jerk. It's kind of like those stutters I have in some of my other videos, but worse. Sometimes I deal with something like that, and sometimes even with my arms. So please learn yours for your own sake, and I don't mean that in a judgmental sense. Just learn your own auras. That way, you know what's about to come upon you the day prior to a seizure, and also. Um, if you're just coming off as a major seizure, maybe it can give you an idea of if you look back and you think, oh, I was having shortness of breath last night. I was having pain after I ate this certain food. Kind of learn, it can give you an idea of what caused those things before. It can give you an idea of um, really what was the warning that you may have missed before the actual seizure befell you. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. I had a major seizure today and I'm just coming off it, so if my voice was a little bit slow, I'm sorry. Um, but I just want you guys to, be careful and to take as good a care of yourself as you can. Um, I love you all because you're you, and peace out now. I'm gonna go.